on hers and then go forward and make the public aspect of it happen. And then had to make some other phone calls that I wanted to make because I needed the ability to let some people who are close to me know that may not have seen the social media side of it. And I wanted to let them know that we're living in the vicinity because I did not want to lose the ties to them in the area because they were friends that had been friends with mine for over 6-7 years already. So I wanted them to know and give them the opportunity to ask questions and to decide if they wanted to continue our friendship.
And were you still with Hertz at this point?
No, I wasn't with Hertz. I was actually with a home building company as a buyer for a home building company at this time. And it was not very long after that I found out what Oklahoma's right to work law really meant.
Which is, you have no right to work if we don't want you to.
Exactly. And that's when I realized that, it was going to be a little bit harder to hide who I was. And so, yeah. And I also realized at that time that it was a little bit harder to get employment as a person who identified as trans at that time.
So you had gone from moving from one corporate gig to another corporate gig to another corporate gig, always increasing in pay, always advancing, doing fantastic. And as soon as you come out as trans, you can't get a job.
Pretty much I go from having corporate gigs to having my own consulting company and going back into corporate work, going in and being, held as management positions to now I'm incapable of working and that there are other people who are better qualified for these roles and these positions. Yet I've been doing these roles and these positions.
Much more experience than somebody else, but it's just because you're trans.
Yes. I mean, they can't say
that, but we all know.
Well, I mean, they could technically have said that in Oklahoma because there was no laws against it. But, when you are walking around with a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, and they can't say that you're not qualified via education, but they're going to say that we found somebody else.
We found somebody more qualified, or we found somebody
direction.
Who's a better fit.
Yeah, we're going a different direction. All that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, and so going through the divorce, losing your job, you lost everything.
Yes, I literally lost everything. I lost the house. I lost my savings. I lost my credit because when you are no longer able to pay your bills, you're no longer able to cover your costs. Went through, depleted all my savings, even went through and depleted all my available credit that I had. I pretty much became homeless, and I became that person who had to move back in with their parents, which at the time they were living down in kind of like Central Texas.
And so I think that's about the time I started really getting to know you. And then I found out you were coming back to California.
Yes, I was going to be moving back to California. And I think it was right about the time when I was going to start making my journey to California because we were driving my parents' vehicles back to California. Was about the same time you were getting ready to have one of your surgeries.
Yeah, I had my bottom surgery in August, and I met you literally like a week or 2 weeks after I had my surgery. It was like one of the first people I actually got to see after my surgery.
Yes, I remember that because we were. I come out and you were on your medical leave, and we met up and we went and had soup over at Soup Plantation. We had salad and soup over at Soup Plantation. Then we ended up going out to Zuma, which, we both were like, hey, let's go. And we hung out at Zuma for the day and just chatted, and walked down the beach and walked back. And I think that your doctor probably would have got a little mad at you for realizing how much you walked that day, even though they said it was probably good for you to walk, but not that much.
Walking in the sand a couple of weeks after a major surgery like that was probably not the smartest thing to do, but it was definitely a fun day. And that's how we kind of started getting to know each other.
Yes. We definitely got to really know each other. And we spent a lot of time that day kind of just really getting the ability to know who each other were as in building deeper into that friendship.
And so we hung out for a while. We did some things. We got some pictures. I don't know. Do you want to go through some of those now? This is my absolute favorite picture because this is from Zuma. And we went to Zuma and we were going to do a bit of photography there. And so we saw this rock out there and there were some waves kind of crashing over it a little bit. And Allison goes, oh, I'm going to go stand out on here. And so, we're sitting there and I'm taking a couple of pictures and then she goes, well, let's wait for a little bit bigger wave. And because we thought it was going to just break over the rocks. And Allison's sitting there and this huge wave comes and it fully engulfs you. You kept that pose through the entire thing.
Yes. And I believe there was maybe 6 photos that you had taken with this. And it had a lead up all the way up to it where there was the initial
you're
flash.
Just standing there and then it's a little bit and then it overtakes you and then it's gone and you're just sitting there in the exact same pose.
Yes. And after we're done, I was like, oh my gosh, I just sat there and we both were laughing about how I held that pose the entire time. And yes, we both went out that day and we were just doing pictures at the beach. We both took out our cameras and just wanted to take pictures and just have fun at a day at Zuma.
And so that was it. And then I've been with you throughout pretty much every surgery that you've had, I think, at least transition related.
Oh, you weren't there with the first one, which was my top surgery, but after the top surgery, which this was my second one, probably the most mentally, the biggest mentally struggling surgery I had, which was my facial surgery.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. And you have your stuffed animal, Gemma, with you, who Gemma has gone through every single one of your surgeries.
Yes, every one of my transition-related surgeries. And she's even been through non-transition related surgeries, rotator cuff surgery, and other surgeries I've had. Gemma's always rode along with me. She actually also goes on all my trips with me as well.
Okay, so you're back out here now, and eventually we get together, and I buy a house in the beginning of 2017. You were one of the first people that got to see it.
Yes. One of your children got to see it first. I believe it was Spencer got to see it first.
Yeah.
And that was when you were doing the initial walkthrough. And then I was kind of out and about and you were like, hey, do you want to come see it? And I'm like, sure. And I got to see it. And I also remember that shortly after I
you found myself, some furniture.
I say shortly found myself moving you out of one house and moving you into the new house. And even spending a day doing it pretty much by myself because you had some lawyer thing that you had to do the lawyer thing. And so I used your truck and was moving stuff back and forth.
And you have no idea how much I appreciate you being there for me, helping me in relationship to that. And one of the things I told you was that as soon as you have a job, you have a place to live.
Yes.
And so we've been roommates for 7 years now, 8 years?
Just over, about 6.5 years now. And since then, we've definitely have done a lot together. We've, had our stuff going on together, and I've supported some of the stuff that you're involved with. You've supported some of the stuff that I've been involved with.
Yeah, the prior photo that we had up there was the one where we went to Las Vegas to be in the wedding for your best friend.
Yes, my friend Kate, her and Chrissy had gotten married, and this was actually, what was it? 3 weeks after my facial surgery, which is one of the reasons why I was wearing the headband, is because it had a huge scar across the top. And the funny thing is also that you and I played a little bit of a joke on a lot of our friends because we had done a picture of just the two of us in Vegas.
You holding the bouquet and saying something's going down in Vegas.
Yep. And everybody thought that you and I were getting married, but it's actually my really, really good friend, Christy, or Kate and Christy, and they got married.